Hi YouTube, welcome to the Emporium Outdoors. My name is Michael, and of course this is Esme, who's doing something over in the snow. So we're out on another overnight winter hot tent adventure. We've got some interesting things for you to take a look at. If you go back a couple of months, we did the $100 Lavu hot tent build, and today we're going to round that off by actually using it. So we have the Lavu, the Polish Lavu with us. I have a new sleeping bag which I'm very excited to try out. And the weather is actually quite nice. It's overcast, I think it might snow, but today is probably about -5, -6. You can see the machines dripping somewhat. We are gonna head down a trail I haven't been down for many years, and we're gonna see how far we get. The snow is still very deep in places, so it's gonna be a bit of a let's see if we can. If we can't, I've got a backup plan, so I'm not too concerned. So if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome. But before we get started, I'd just like to point out that more than half of you are not subscribers to the channel. So if you'd like to consider subscribing, I'd be very, very grateful. And I know Esme would as well. So let's get going. Come on, Es, let's go. So I think we finally found the limit of the tracks on the Can-Am. I'm going down a very deep trail, but I don't think we can go much further. I'm making progress by going back and forth, but I really don't want to get stuck. There's not a lot of trees to actually pull to, so I'll show you what we're up against anyway. So once we start to power out, that's when we start digging, and there's just too much snow to push. So I think I'm going to try and get to this cut line. It's not far away. If I just back up. So just to give you some idea of how much snow this thing will go through, not even at the bottom, I could feel. So she's pretty deep. I can see it's like way above the level of the tracks. Esme, this is too deep. So I think I'm going to turn around. This is just, if I get stuck in here, I'm stuck. There's not much that can actually get to me and pull me out apart from another one of these machines. So plan B. I think every machine has its limits, and this type of track with this weight of machine, that's the other factor, is I'm probably 2,200 pounds with the tracks, so it's a lot of weight. The footprint is probably not large enough for these tracks, but traction's good. But I just think I'll find a better spot. So as you can see, we're pretty buried. She's deep, all right. Esme, you're actually below the level of the snow. It's crazy. Okay, let's try and turn around. Okay, so we got ourselves out of that mess. We went up to our backup site. So the trail's good here because I was here recently, if people remember back. But I'll take it. That was, I think I probably could have gone on, but I was getting out of my comfort zone. Like there isn't much that could have got me back out of there. And that could have been a nightmare. Could have been very expensive to recover this machine from somewhere like that. Even though I carry spares, spare belt, everything else. I think it's pretty hard on the machines too, and there's a limit to every machine, so I'm glad in the situation that I'm in now, where I just, okay, that's enough, before I get too deep. So knowing when to quit is an important thing. So I'm at my cache, my log cache, which I set up a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to load some of those up on the back of the box, and that should save me a lot of work. Even here, that I don't know what it is with that particular trail, but it was deeper than any other trail around. Whether it doesn't get much sun, or there was just the way the wind was blowing. Maybe the trail was just in a different direction where it was getting a lot of shed from the trees, but that was deep, like super deep. All right, enough chatter. Let's get going. Well, we've arrived at our little camp spot. Glad to see there's not too much snow on the ground, but it's also wet. So we're really on that cusp of winter camping with a hot tent and probably a hammock. And I was 50-50. I think it's going to be fine. Should dry up pretty quick. It's going to get wet in there anyway. I have my cot with me, but I'm not sure if the cot's going to fit in the lavoo, if I'm honest. Whether it's going to be too high. But we'll make it work somehow. Of all the challenges around right now, this is kind of minor, so I can't really complain. The little valley is as beautiful as always. It just brings a smile to my heart every time I come to this spot. I'm sure if you've seen it before, I'm sorry if I'm kind of repeating my trips, but it's the way it is. Sorry. There's certain places I like to try new places, but if I run into difficulties like I did today, I'm not going to risk it. You have no idea how difficult it would be to recover this machine if it broke down. Even a couple of kilometers in that deep snow. I would probably have to just wait it out and leave it in there, or helicopter it out, and it cost me a fortune. Anyway, I see the camp robins have arrived, so that's probably a key for me to stop talking and get doing. So let's take a look around the lavoo. So this is a medium-sized lavoo. There's my stove jack, my homemade vent. Just pegged out. I've got my second zipper here. Like so. And this is a medium, and you can tell by the number of grommets on the opening. This is 2. The large has 3 and the small has 1. And it's a smaller tent, that's for sure. But it's just wet inside. And when I put the hot tent stove inside, it's not going to get any better. So, got to make some decisions. What do you think, Ez? What do you think we should do? So I've just had to sit down, fed Esme, had to think about things, and I don't think I'm going to use the Lavu. So this is what I'm thinking. The ground at the moment, it's starting to turn. Time is about 3 o'clock. This will freeze up, but if I put a hot tent in there, it's going to be very wet. And I don't want to get things wet. That's the last thing I want to do. I've got down sleeping bags, and that's not a good thing. It's not big enough to put my cot inside so I can get up off the ground. So that's the problem. The smart thing to do would have been to bring the hammock, because then I would have been up off, and I tend to, in spring, always bring a hammock. I did bring my cot, so I do have that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a lean-to shelter, put my cot out here, lean-to and a fire. And I think that's probably going to be better. It's going to get cold during the night, maybe I think -10, somewhere around there. But I think being stuck inside there with a hot tent on the ground with the possibility of getting wet is not a good prospect. So I think that's the plan. I think that's what I'm going to do. So this is the setup we came up with. Simple lean-to shelter. We've got the cot, the Helinox cot, and we haven't figured out who's sleeping where yet. But I think I know who's taking the cot. So I may be sleeping on the floor. I've yet to start the fire, but it will be about here. I think this is a much better setup, personally. Just the snow is really, when it goes really crystallized like that, it's on the border of melting. So my machine is just dripping away. Temperature right now is, let's see, +8, but it will be dropping down pretty soon. We got an hour and a half of sunlight left. So I'm going to catch up with my podcast for a little while, and then I'll get right back with you. So tonight my sleep system is going to be the Therm-a-rest Polar Ranger -30 Celsius sleeping bag, and I've got it combined with a Neo Air Extreme mat as well, and I'll just kind of show you a few things about the sleeping bag. So the first thing I'm going to point out is it connects to the sleeping mat, so you can't lose the mat, which is one of my biggest complaints. This was a big must for me, had to connect to a mat. And the other feature for me was center zip, because I'm always kind of mixed up with the left hand, right hand zip. I have hammocks that have to be left hand zip, and I have other systems that have to be right hand zip, like my bivy bags. So I thought a center zip would be better. Has this snorkel head, which is great. It's a synthetic hood, so your vapor coming out of your mouth basically doesn't freeze the sleeping bag up. Has this huge hood, keep you nice and warm, and it has these armholes, so you can actually put your arms out during the night or during the morning and do stuff as well. So it's designed by a famous Arctic kind of explorer person. But the thing is, when you tag your name to something, let's hope he wasn't a sellout. I'll let you know after tonight. It's a -30 bag. I think the comfort is like -20 Celsius. It's got good loft. It's like 800 fill, I think, somewhere around there. The bag I looked at was the Western Mountaineering bag versus this one. I bought this one because of the center zip. Has a little piece in the bottom as well where you can tuck your feet underneath. So we'll see. It's my first night in this. It's a departure from my normal sleeping bags, because you know Esme normally sleeps in the bags with me. So we're actually going to be separated for the first time during camping. So she may be happy about that, she may not. Anyway, that's my sleep system. I'm not sure if I'm going to sleep on the camp cot or on the floor and let Esme take the camp cot. I don't know. I have this. It's my Therm-a-rest Z-Lite mat as well. And this is for Esme. That was the plan originally. Just not sure. I don't want her to run off in the night, so I'm worried about that too. It's going to work out. I'm just worried about the details, but it'll all come together. So looking forward to a very good night. So I asked if you had any questions that you'd like to ask Esme and I, and I posted that in the community tab on YouTube. So I'm going to go through those questions now and quickly answer them. So Golden New F709, sorry the smoke's a bit bad. What's your day job? So I'm an IT guy. I've worked in the IT industry for 23 years, 22 years, something like that. Before that, I served in the Royal Air Force, and before that, I studied electronic engineering. So it's kind of a mixed bag. So BC Outdoorsman asked, side by side with tracks or Argo with tracks? What are your thoughts? The Argo, I think the 8x8 with the rubber tracks is very capable. I think the 6x6 with the plastic tracks that I had did okay, but it wasn't great because it didn't really have traction. And when you think about it, it's kind of obvious now that I look back. Like if you don't have any gripping lugs on the track, like the side by side that I have right now, like there's no way it can climb a hill. I'm not sure why Argo sells the plastic tracks the way they do, because in reality there's no way they can actually go up a hill. Okay. If you went on Naked and Afraid, what item would you bring with you? I'm not quite sure what that is because I've never seen it, but I think I've seen a couple of trailers. I think it's just you're naked and you take one item maybe. Depends where, would it depend? I don't think it would depend where I was. I would probably take a stainless steel pot, like a pot with a handle, like a big saucepan, is what I'd take. Because smoke is terrible. Because one of the hardest things in nature is to find something you can boil water in, or cook something in, or melt snow, or it's hard to have something that can withstand fire and heat something up. And one of our basic requirements is water above all else. So to have something you can actually boil something in is paramount. I can make do with almost anything else. Also, with something like a stainless steel pot, I could maybe break the handle off and turn that into like a cutting implement. So that's what I would take, is a stainless steel pot with a handle. Does Esme get cold out there? What food do you bring? And would it be possible to show some cooking videos? Typically Esme doesn't get too cold. I always take care of her. She's wrapped up in a nice sleeping bag right now. I bring her normal dog food with her, so it's normal for her, but I will share my food. I don't really do too many cooking parts of my videos because I'm a vegetarian, apart from today, which I actually brought steak. So Bob R now asks, how do you get your wife to go along with all of your purchases, and does she ever go out camping with you? She does come out camping occasionally. She's more of a fair weather camper. As far as the purchases, I try and justify some of the purchases. If I buy something that's kind of interesting and I share the video, then I do make some money from it. It typically doesn't cover even my gas to come out here, but I pretend it does. And all the time I put into making the videos and stuff, it's just a lost kind of enterprise, but it's a hobby. What's your favorite hunting cartridge? So for large game, it's 7mm 08 is my favorite. It's a derivative of the 308 cartridge, but it's very, very accurate, I find, and it's actually pretty easy in the shoulder too. For small game, it's 22 long rifle on subsonics with solid tips. Works perfect. When will you do a 3-day camping trip? I would if I could, but really I try and balance work, family and YouTube, so it's kind of difficult, but I'm not sure if anyone would really enjoy a 3-day camp. If it was like a backpacking trip, it would be interesting, I think, because you're changing all the time. But if you camped in like one spot for 3 days, it's not that great. Maybe a canoe trip. I've got a canoe trip planned for the summer, so maybe then. So Lee Quinn asks, I have a tough one, why do you make videos? The main desire of my channel is to encourage other people to step outside of their normal everyday lives and try something different. Go out and camp. It's not scary. I'm an IT guy. If I can do it, anyone can do it. It just takes a little bit of courage for that first little camp out. And once you take that first step, you want to take the next step. And the more people actually engage in nature will appreciate it more. And they might want to even protect it a little bit. So that's why I make videos. Michael Murther asks, what got you into this hobby? I've been camping for a long time. During my military years, I did a lot of outdoors camping, survival stuff, and it really gave me the bug to do it more and more, to kind of push it further and further. I did lots of kind of mountain type camping and climbing mountains, mountaineering, rock climbing. I did lots of that stuff, and I've kind of edged away from that because it became less fun. It is very physically demanding, and as I got older it became harder. So I just like camping, so I take a machine with me, carry all my stuff now. So that's really what it is. Ever think of building your own cabin? Yes, I have. I've got several books on how to do it, and I will do that one day. So Waterman 1976 asks, what's your educational background? So once I left school, in England we leave school at 16, I went on to study electronic engineering. I then joined the military, and studied aeronautical engineering for a period of time. Came out, went to IT, and it's mainly technical qualifications since then. So I'm not sure where my educational level stands. Pretty well read, like to keep up to speed on things. So somewhere in the middle, I guess. Heath Doty, was the Can-Am worth the buy with a set of tracks? Can you justify the purchase? Will it make your investment worth it? Ask a question. It is worth it, I think, for me. I started on very basic machines and I've worked my way through it. I don't think any machine is better than the next one, really. It depends what you do with it. I've had problems with the Can-Am. I never had problems with the Pioneer 500. But one machine is way more complicated than the other. Was the Can-Am problem solved? Yes. Did the dealer take care of it eventually? Yes. It depends what you want to do with it. It's hard to say. The Pioneer 500 would go places the Can-Am won't. The Argo would go places the P500 wouldn't. So I think choosing a machine is actually quite difficult. I think it actually shapes part of what you want to do because you see the limitations of the machine. So if you have a machine that will do anything, you'll do anything. If you have a machine that will only go certain places, you pretty much plan your trip around that. But I think the Can-Am was worth it. RGL says, I know we live in the same city, heck, we could be neighbours. Possibly. I also gather you're probably camped somewhere west in the Crown Land, judged by the area. How far from the city are you? So I'm about, every trip I take typically takes me 2.5 hours to drive out and 2.5 hours obviously to get back. It's kind of a long drive, but I love this area and it's totally worth it because no one really comes here. So to me, this is kind of home. It's like a home from home. So in the wind, Davidson asks, how far in kilometers do you drive by Can-Am or Argo into the bush to camp, and how long does it take on average? So on average, it takes about an hour to drive to where I go to. That's about the limit of where I kind of draw the line. If I continually drive, I get stuck, it takes longer. In summer, it's quicker typically, but you do hit mud spots and that kind of slows you down. In winter, I try and stay within reason to somewhere I can walk out in one day. So this is about 15 kilometers from where I parked, from my staging point. However, if I run into trouble, I know if I go that way about 3-4 kilometers, I'll hit a well site and I can get out onto a track. So even though to get back to where I came is 15 kilometers, I know that way is my safe way if things go pretty south on me. So thank you, that's the end of the questions. I'm going to build up the fire and we're going to cook some food. And Esme is completely asleep. I think I bored her to death. Okay, it's time for some supper. We have some sirloin strip. Ooh. Almost. As you know, I've probably been a vegetarian for almost 4 years, so I only eat the meat that I kill, but this isn't something I've killed. So this is a departure. Oh, it's hot. It's hot as. To be honest, the reason I'm eating this is to I don't feel good not eating meat, if I'm completely honest. When I do eat meat, when I caught the chicken a few months ago, I felt so much better. So I thought I'd try a piece of meat and see how I felt. Anyways, it's hot. That's pretty good, I gotta admit. So I'm going to stack up the fire a little bit more, and yeah, just what a beautiful night. Very much enjoying this evening. Well, good morning everyone. Oh, we had a very pleasant night in the sleeping bag. I think it went down to like -10. And I wouldn't know. It was actually very nice inside the sleeping bag. Slept directly on the snow with the Therm-a-rest mat. Esme took the cot and the -40 sleeping bag, and I don't want to get out. Oh, I've got to be honest. Oh, it's a nice sleeping bag. Anyway, I'm going to get up shortly, get some coffee, have my omelette, and get moving. But for now, I think I'm just going to climb back in because it's cold. The temperature right now is, can't tell, but it feels like about -6. But as a sleeping bag, this was pretty much amazing. Loved it. Couldn't feel any of the cold whatsoever. It's quite wonderful. I'm going to spend 5 more minutes in the sleeping bag and then I'm going to probably get up. Well, it's a cold morning, but a little bit of tailgate coffee won't go amiss. Quite looking forward to this, and then I think we'll get moving. Esme's already in the cab and she's nice and warm. Oh, kind of forgotten how brutal the cold camping is. It's not too bad when you're in the sleeping bag, it's the packing up part I hate. I think this is my last cold camping expedition. However, the Swagman roll did come in very useful. Kept me warm all night actually. So I'm gonna boil up this coffee and I'll get right back with you. Well everyone, that was a pretty rough go around. I looked terrible this morning. That was cold last night. It was nice inside the sleeping bag, but I was just worried all night about Esme, whether she was going to be warm enough. I probably won't do it that way ever again. If I use that sleeping bag, it's got to be in a hot tent where I know Esme's going to be nice and warm. I actually miss having her in the bottom of my sleeping bag. That's why I have those big square sleeping bags, so that she can climb in. Even though the Polar Ranger was beautiful to sleep in and very hard to get out of this morning, I think it's something I can only use on my own, to be honest. And I've never camped without Esme. And I'm not sure if I would, if I'm honest. Maybe I'll do like a bushcraft overnighter and just do solo stuff, because it's too hard on the dogs. They don't really understand what's going on, and it's just hard for them. But she's happy now. She's sat here. I've got my coffee. So we're going to wrap up the video now, and I hope you stay safe out there. Until next time, take care.
And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like my videos, leave me a comment, maybe a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe.